In a world where nuclear power can both spark economic growth and threaten global stability, the story of Iran's nuclear journey stands as one of the most consequential chapters in modern history. From its ambitious beginnings and rapid technological developments to groundbreaking international agreements, this saga has reshaped global politics and transformed the very nature of diplomacy. How did Iran's nuclear program evolve, and what does the current impasse mean for international security and the future of the Middle East? It's a question that has captivated the global community for decades. Today we begin our search for answers. Let's dive in. Iran's nuclear journey dates back over half a century. Under the reign of the Shah, Iran embarked on an ambitious program to harness nuclear energy, building research centers and reactors with significant Western support. This era was marked by optimism, a belief that nuclear technology would usher in modernity, spur economic growth and symbolize Iran's progress. However, after the 1979 Islamic Revolution, priorities shifted and the nuclear program was forced underground. Over the following decades, Iran began to expand its uranium enrichment capabilities. Facilities were built in secrecy, and the country gradually developed the technology needed to produce enriched uranium. As Iran's program advanced, the international community grew increasingly concerned that these activities might not be limited to peaceful purposes. Geopolitical events in the Middle East, ranging from regional conflicts to shifts in global alliances, intensified these worries. Economic sanctions were imposed one after another, severely crippling Iran's economy and further isolating the nation. This mounting pressure set the stage for a major diplomatic breakthrough under President Barack Obama, when the international community sought a solution to contain Iran's nuclear ambitions while easing its economic hardships. After years of severe sanctions and diplomatic deadlock, 2015 marked a turning point. Iran and the P5+1, the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council, plus Germany, signed the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA. Under this landmark agreement, Iran committed to limiting its uranium enrichment to no more than 3.67%, a level sufficient for generating nuclear energy and for medical isotope production, but far below the roughly 90% enrichment needed for a nuclear bomb. In addition, Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium was reduced with 98% and kept. For context, while the permitted enrichment would suffice for peaceful purposes, a weapon-grade bomb requires uranium enriched to about 90%, a level that remains well out of reach under the JCPOA. Iran also had to reduce the amount of centrifuges they had to no more than 5,060 IR-1 centrifuges, the oldest and least efficient model. The country was also permitted to continue research and development in a manner that does not accumulate enriched uranium, and to test more advanced IR-6 and IR-8 centrifuges, which can more quickly enrich uranium. In exchange for these nuclear limitations, a wide array of economic sanctions was lifted. For instance, bans on Iranian oil exports, restrictions on international banking and trade, and limitations on access to global financial systems were gradually eased, paving the way for Iranian companies to re-enter international markets. These measures, negotiated by the Obama administration over many months of intense diplomatic effort, were designed to diffuse tensions and reintegrate Iran into the global economy. The easing of sanctions under the JCPOA had an immediate and measurable impact on Iran's economy. As restrictions were lifted, the Iranian rial gained significant value against the US dollar, and foreign investment began to flow back into the nation. Key sectors such as oil exports, manufacturing and technology experienced a revival. New infrastructure projects and increased access to international finance provided a tangible boost to daily life, heralding the promise of a brighter future. Public sentiment in Iran was largely one of cautious optimism. Many citizens celebrated the prospect of economic relief, hoping that the resurgence in trade and investment would bring improved living standards, job opportunities, and a revitalized sense of national pride after years of hardship under sanctions. Newspapers and local media reported a renewed optimism, even as debates and concerns about the deal's long-term viability persisted.
The Iran deal is defective at its core. If we do nothing, we know exactly what will happen. In just a short period of time, the world's leading state sponsor of terror will be on the cusp of acquiring the world's most dangerous weapons. At the heart of the Iran deal was a giant fiction that a murderous regime desired only a peaceful nuclear energy program. Therefore, I am announcing today that the United States will withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal. We will not allow a regime that chants death to America to gain access to the most deadly weapons on earth. The United States no longer makes empty threats. When I make promises, I keep them.
In 2018, the international landscape was irrevocably altered when President Donald Trump unilaterally withdrew the United States from the JCPOA. President Trump stated that the deal was flawed and one-sided. For example, President Trump stated that the deal provided Iran with a cash lifeline to finance militant groups in the region that could pose a threat to its allies. A second point that President Trump stated is that the deal didn't provide any limitations on Iran's ballistic missile program, which is seen as a threat by both the Israelis and the Saudis. Prior to Trump's decision to withdraw from the agreement, UN inspectors at Iranian nuclear facilities had consistently reported that Iran was largely in compliance with the agreement's terms, praising the country's efforts towards transparency and disarmament. Trump's cancellation of the deal not only reimposed crippling economic sanctions, but also sparked a wave of international outrage. European, Russian and Chinese officials expressed deep disappointment. Many warned that this abrupt reversal could trigger a dangerous escalation in regional tensions. Former JCPOA negotiators and UN inspectors expressed deep regrets that years of painstaking diplomacy had been undone in a single day, deepening uncertainties over the future of nuclear non-proliferation in the Middle East. The renewed sanctions compounded economic hardships and stirred speculation about Iran's next move, leaving a nation once again on the brink of international isolation. Facing the fallout from Trump's withdrawal, the Biden administration sought a path of renewed diplomacy and engagement, determined to restore stability and rebuild alliances. US officials embarked on a series of efforts to bring both sides back to the negotiating table. This approach focused on reversing the maximum pressure campaign. Economic sanctions were gradually eased as part of a broader strategy to encourage Iran to return to full compliance with the JCPOA, or to negotiate a new framework addressing nuclear transparency alongside regional concerns. Unlike the previous administration's hardline stance, Biden's strategy emphasized multilateral dialogue, working closely with European partners, Russia and China, to craft a coherent plan for de-escalation. Despite significant challenges and the persistence of long-standing mistrust, these efforts represented a cautious but genuine attempt to re-establish diplomatic norms in a region on the brink of escalation.
On the Iran situation, I think we're doing very well. I think a deal's going to be made there. That's going to happen. Pretty sure it's going to happen. We'll have something without having to start dropping bombs all over the place.
As of April 28, 2025, Iran and the United States have made tangible progress towards a new agreement. In Muscat, Oman, indirect talks mediated by Oman yielded exchange-written proposals and detailed technical discussions on limiting uranium enrichment and calibrating sanctions relief. A follow-up session is due in early May in Europe. Despite constructive engagement, sharp divides persists. The US demands a full halt to enrichment, citing the need to prevent a bomb, while Iran insists on retaining limited enrichment for energy and medical isotopes, a red line for Tehran. Inside the US government, some officials now warn that President Trump's approach is effectively a JCPOA 2.0, mirroring Obama's 2015 deal, signaling diplomatic weakness rather than strength. Senior advisors, such as Elliott Abrams, argue that seeking a revival of enrichment restrictions without tougher regional guarantees undercuts US leverage and risks repeating past mistakes. Adding further complexity, Prime Minister Netanyahu and hawks within the Trump administration continue to push the Libya model, a demand for complete dismantlement of Iran's ballistic missile program and nuclear program for both civilian and military alike, threatening war if Iran refuses. Israeli officials have reaffirmed readiness to conduct airstrikes on Iran's facilities in concert with US forces should diplomacy collapse. From Iran's point of view, compliance with these demands would leave them vulnerable to military action by the United States and Israel. A point that is understandable. For example, if we take a look at North Korea, their possession of the nuclear bomb forms a protective umbrella that would make any potential invader think twice before attacking. In stark contrast, Iranian leaders maintain that their nuclear ambitions are strictly for peaceful purposes, but they also say that they could develop a bomb if they seem it as necessary to prevent a foreign invasion on their homeland. Meanwhile, President Trump has surprised many by expressing openness to meet Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei to break the impasse. Sure, he told Time magazine when asked if he would sit down with Iran's leader. This unexpected outreach fuels both cautious optimism and concerns among US policymakers. Negotiations are currently still ongoing, but the atmosphere remains charged with tension. On one front, military forces, ballistic missiles, carrier fleets, militant groups, drones and assets remain strategically positioned. American bombers are on high alert at Diego Garcia, just as the IRGC in Iran. While on the other side, the negotiators are facing a race against time. European signatories have warned they may trigger a UN snapback of sanctions by August if no accord is reached. The world watches as these high-stakes talks navigate a narrow path between a regional war and a fragile peace. The saga of Iran's nuclear program, from its inception under the Shah to the 2015 JCPOA landmark, to the American withdrawal of the deal in 2018, and today's renewed diplomacy, continues to shape the global order. As of end of April 2025, the Muscat talks offer a glimmer of hope. Yet the specter of a JCPOA 2.0, seen by critics as a sign of US weakness, the Libya model ultimatum, and Israel's readiness to strike keep tensions high. President Trump's unexpected willingness to meet Ayatollah Ali Khamenei further underscores the unpredictable nature of this effort. Whether diplomacy will prevail before August sanctions deadline, or whether military action becomes inevitable, remains the defining question of our time. I want to thank you all for listening, and we hope to see you again in our next video. Until then, I'm the Chronicler, reminding you to like, subscribe, and remember that history is written in mystery.